Hello again, guys. So for today's video, I'm going to be painting the cover of a new sketchbook that I'm making. Now, obviously, most of the process besides stitching it all together is already done. Sorry, this is not a how-to tutorial on making a sketchbook. Maybe I'll do that in another video in the future. But for today, what you are going to see is how I painted the cover. So here I do have all my paper cut and folded into signatures, and this is actually watercolor paper because it's going to be a sketchbook specifically for working with gouache. And then I also have a couple covers, a front and a back. I'm only going to paint the front cover. I don't really feel like doing the back. I will say that I was pretty nervous about painting on these backings because they're not obviously made for painting. So I did expect a lot of warping, but it actually wasn't too bad. As you'll see later in the video, it worked out okay. I'm just going to have to set it underneath some heavy books for a while. And then, of course, when I stitch everything together, it should help it flatten out a bit. I really like making these because I get to use up a lot of leftover materials I have from college. This is actually the first one I ever made, and it's Coptic stitched, which is actually the stitching I'm going to use for this watercolor sketchbook. And it turned out pretty well for it being my first sketchbook I ever made. And another reason I really like doing this is because when you buy an actual sketchbook from a store, it's probably going to have like a really pretty cover or something, or it's expensive. And so you kind of get this feeling of like, oh, everything inside the sketchbook needs to be as, nice or as pretty as the outside. And with a homemade one, it's not really the case. You're kind of like, okay, it's fine. I can be messy. I can sketch and make a bad drawing if I need to. And this is a different binding technique. It's a Japanese style. I didn't do so well with this one. It's a little janky, but I'll probably try again in the future and make it a little nicer. But, it works. Like I said, these are homemade, so it makes you less afraid to experiment inside the sketchbook, which is what a sketchbook is for. It's not always going to have the nicest drawings in it. Kudos to the artists who can make really nice sketchbooks with really nice sketches in every single page. That is not the case for me or any of my other fellow artists out there, I'm sure. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with the painting process. So I had sketched this out in an actual sketchbook beforehand, and it's going to be a cute little garden scene, sort of like a window into a garden scene. And it's gonna be titled the Oh My Gouache sketchbook because instead of oh my god, you get it. It's fine. I don't have to explain the joke. Anyway, I did sketch this out beforehand, and I also did color sketches. That's why my palette is already used up. So yeah, I'm just gonna jump in now and start painting the first layer, which is daunting for, reasons I explained earlier. This paper is definitely not a paper that's supposed to absorb water very well. As you can see, it's very streaky. Very, very streaky. I'm just gonna keep powering through though, because I can't turn back now. I've already committed to this. And of course, with the more layers you put on, you probably won't see any of the streaks later on because I'm using gouache, and gouache is a very thick and opaque paint. It's also a very forgiving medium, so if you're like nervous about starting to learn how to paint, maybe try gouache. That's what you should do. Try gouache. It's very forgiving at times. So yeah, you can see here the paper is starting to get this weird texture because obviously it's not meant for water or watercolor or gouache or anything like that. But as I said, we're going to build up the layers. You can start to see I use a lot more paint versus water, and everything just gets thicker, and so it covers all those streaks and that nasty texture that was coming from the paper. I was still a little nervous though that the top layer of paper was gonna like rip or something, so I let it dry a little bit. As you can see, it's pretty warped already, and I kind of like bent it to see if it would rip or anything, but it didn't. It's fine. We're gonna just keep going. Yeah, I'm just gonna add some little leaves here and there. These leaves are kind of sticking out of this like garden window. I keep calling it a window. I don't know if that's like the right word to describe it. but it's the word I'm going to use for now. So yeah, this is probably my favorite painting medium because I did start off learning to paint with acrylic, and that, if you've ever painted with acrylic, it's all right. It just dries really, really fast, and so you have a very limited amount of time to blend things, and that always frustrated me. And then I tried oil painting, and that was the opposite problem, and everything took forever to dry. So yeah, gouache was a nice happy medium. As you can see, I have a little sponge on the corner. I tried to blend the background with it. It did not work out. What I end up doing instead is using my fingers. This is why I can never have my nails done professionally, because I will ruin them any chance I get if I need to blend my paint, because blending with your finger is so much better than with a sponge. It's so much smoother. So the gouache that I'm using is actually by Holbein, and I do have some Winsor & Newton there off to the side, but I'm not actually using it. I brought it out because I thought I would use it, and I found out real quickly that most of the tubes are kind of dried up right now. And I saw a friend who was facing the same problem with hers. She actually cut them open and squeezed them into like tiny little jars. And I thought that was really cute, so I might do that. Maybe I'll make a video of how to store your gouache or something. Because, yeah, the tubes are nice. I like the tubes, but for some reason they just get really dried out. And maybe it's just because they're kind of old. I've had these since college, which was maybe like 3 years ago at most. So yeah, maybe I'll try doing that and see if I can save them. But this Holbein gouache is pretty nice. I really like this one. It's very vibrant. I'm really loving how vibrant the pigment is. I'm kind of going for like a Studio Ghibli style background. At least I'm trying to. I'm no Miyazaki or any one of his background painters that work on those beautiful films, but I am inspired by the color palette. One time when I was listing Miyazaki as an inspiration, someone told me that I shouldn't say that because, you know, everyone says that they're inspired by him and then they don't actually show it in their work, or it's just overused. And I mean, come on, I get it, but also there was no need. No need to shame people for liking something that is obviously very popular. And I mean, it doesn't matter like if you can, you know, replicate his work or not. I mean, you can study it. You can learn about color, light, shadow, composition. There's so many things you can take away and use in your own art. And it doesn't matter that they're super popular and that everyone, you know, loves this particular artist or what he does or what he produces. If anything, that should be a sign for you to study him and use him as an inspiration, because he's obviously doing something right. And why not learn what that something is? Even if you're not able to replicate it exactly, you can still use it in your work. So yeah, I'm just penciling in the lettering that I'm going to do, and I actually don't know what happened to the footage between that and this. I can't find it. I maybe didn't even turn my camera on. I don't know. Sometimes I get distracted and I forget to hit record. It's unfortunate because like that was like a significant jump in detail. So sorry guys about that. I will try to do better in the future. I'm going to be working on the final details now, which honestly, it's a really fun part because you're like putting on those highlights and making everything pop. But at the same time, you're also really worried of overdoing it. Like, you know, one moment you're like, yes, this is looking beautiful. And then you add one too many highlights and it ruins the entire piece. So sometimes it's a little stressful. Another thing, you're going to see me in a minute probably pull out my phone because I film a reel, and if you want to go see that reel, it's on my Instagram, which is linked in the description. You might have to dig for it because this was filmed a few months ago. So yeah, if you want to see that, check it out. I am going to be doing a part 2 of this video where I actually stitched the sketchbook together, so that's coming maybe in a couple weeks. I have another video that needs to come out after this one, but we'll see. Maybe I'll bump it up. I don't know. But yeah, there I am filming my reel. Alright guys, this is the final piece. I love the way it came out. It's still pretty warped obviously, but we'll fix that later as I said. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing my gouache painting process. I do both traditional and digital work on this channel, so I hope you guys will subscribe to see more of that kind of work. Anyway, that is all I have for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for watching.